Okay, so I call this meeting to order. First item up would be the minutes. What do you think? Need a motion? Okay, David moves. Lenny seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Everybody has said aye. Deal. Okay.
You're all business this morning.
I read this and it says I'm supposed to crack the whip and keep us going, so
Okay.
here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, library data and financial report.
Okay.
I flagged some things. So.
Okay, good. First of all, before we start, and then we'll take questions if anyone has anything. The financial report at City Hall that provided to us was actually the mid-report for the month, because when we turn POs in, they may not immediately become encumbered. And so the numbers in that financial report, some of them may be a little off. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will try to address any questions that you have there. So we want to start with the financial report.
I see that our promotions and programs problem got solved. Because
Yes.
it's no longer a negative showing there.
Right. And so that is fine. And in talking to Joe Don, we kind of had I'm not quite understanding, and he had a lengthy discussion with me, and my mind still cannot wrap around it, that since our grants come in differently than the other entities for the city, in that we don't turn in reimburse things to get reimbursed back. Our money's up front.
Mm-hmm.
But he said the way with our current system, I cannot think about it in the terms of a checkbook, of having a set amount of money and subtracting out. And that is kind of how I have always operated off of those grants, so I have a certain amount of money left. So I'm going to try to change my mind frame around that, still keep my records the same way, but there will be like about $10,000 of that money that will go back, that he will allocate for next year's budget, because it was that reading trust grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so he will do that. We had the situation that this week we did get another grant, and of course they give it to us right in the middle of the year. I mean, it would have been better if they would have waited and given it to us in July. But since they didn't, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to encumber all of that money in the next 2 weeks. We're going to try to get it spent, because otherwise we're going to run into the situation then of them having to figure out the amount and allocate it back into next year's budget.
What was that grant for?
The grant, it's a little bit later in our agenda, but it was for the STEM grant.
Oh, okay, well, we're going to get to it.
So, I think everything else is pretty much running true to form. There are some other expenditures that have already come out of, like our periodicals and binding. There's another $475 that has come out of that, so we really estimated pretty well the amount of money we needed in that account.
I'd say within $15 gets it pretty quick.
Right. Our travel and training, this year, we're budgeted a little too high. The money that we have left in those accounts, basically because we didn't have some overnight stays we thought we maybe would have to have, and some of our training classes that we typically would have paid for, Oklahoma Department of Libraries offered them free. Some workshops we go to are paid for, where we have to pay for the workshops, and some are not, and they offered more of the things that pertain to us this year that were free ones.
Well, yay.
So that saved us some money there. In our dues and subscriptions, we were real close in that one too. Actually, we now have encumbered out $1,061.20 out of that account, of $1,069, so that account is basically gone. And other than that, we are pretty much setting the way we should be. Our professional services is going to run a little short. We had some added expenses with setting up our iPads that we did, and so we're going to run a little short in that amount, but within that service charges, since we had extra money in our travel and training.
So it's Rob Peter and Maypal is still okay?
From what I understand, then that's how those items kind of work out. So did anybody have any specific burning questions regarding our financial?
I had a question on the back with the capital outlay.
Yes.
We had some negatives over there.
Okay. Well, that's the situation that happened last year, that when my budget came through, I did not have any money in my book budget. And
Mhm.
that's usually what my infrastructure is. And there should have been $8,000 in that account. But what happened when I had went before the building committee and board, and they had given me the $20,000 because we thought we were gonna get to start doing some library renovations. When that money was put into that fund, then it looked like that fund had been completed. And it so happened that when they gave me and it wasn't anyone's, I mean, it was just one of those things that happened. I guess we were supposed to have gotten this budget to approve, that Joe Don did it. I went and talked to the office, and when we talked in the office, it looked like it was okay. And the paper was supposed to be given to me to look at it and make sure everything was okay on the paper copy. To my knowledge, I never got the paper. Now, maybe the paper came my way and I missed it. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, I had no book money budget this year. And Joe Don told me to go ahead, and I was trying to be conservative until I got state aid grants. But that's why we're running a negative amount there. But actually, since we didn't use money for the building, like, we didn't go ahead and do some of the renovations we were planning on doing. I was planning on getting some painting done, some electrical work done, and we didn't go ahead and do that this year for that reason. So that's kind of where we have been finding that the whole year since the first month, that I had no book money budget. So that's why it's there.
And hopefully that'll go away with the next budget.
And there is $6,000 budgeted for capital outlay equipment next year.
Okay, great.
And $8,000 budgeted for capital outlay and infrastructure, and $30,000 in capital outlay for the buildings.
Oh, good.
So that is the preliminary budget that we received last night.
Great. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Steve.
That would be wonderful. Are there any other comments as far as where our financials, I think the way the city is trying to do this to make it realistic and us kind of know where our money is going is really good. For me, it's challenging because I know some of the city departments, and like Joe Don has said, well, you buy what has to be bought. I mean, like, you know, if you're Public Works and you have to buy a piece of equipment, you have to buy things to repair the road, you have to do that. But when we're service oriented, it's a little different for us, because if we have money that's left, if we've been frugal and there's money left or had no emergencies come up, then that means we can provide extra services. You know, so we kind of wait to see what we can do. And so, from my viewpoint, it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around this of the way it's being done. But I can see for the city where it's a real benefit for them to understand where the money's going.
Okay. All right, what else have we got there?
Okay, the other report is our statistical report, and our numbers are running pretty true as far as new patrons and everything like that. I did want to point out, we had talked a little bit about the fact that all of a sudden we had a lot more wireless users. And I went and talked to the tech people we use, and I said, there's something wrong with our numbers. Well, we realized what happened was we're running some of our computers wireless, because we're doing that testing to see when we do a renovation, if we can go wireless. Well, those numbers are being picked up in our wireless users instead of in library use, even though there are computers. So what I did do, though, and to track, and they're going to look to see if there's some way we can do that by IP address, so we can
Separate
see
them
which
out.
ones are ours. But what I was pleased about was in July of last year and August of last year, if you combine both totals, they're like running about 750 times that both of computers were used, either wireless, at their own devices, or ours. And our numbers now consistently for April and May, like for April it was 1,240, and May 1,191. So we're able at least to track that we've got a continual growth of those services being needed, and that's what I need to know, is if they're being utilized. And we are showing that the electronic portion of the services that we provide, the internet, is in demand and is rising still, which is important for us to you
I'm
know.
not surprised at that.
Right. But I was just kind of like, this doesn't make any sense because I know our internet computers are just as busy as they've always been. So that was kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So does anybody have any questions as far as anything on our statistical report?
Have we got that, overdue notice computer thing set up yet?
We do have, and if you look under the internet, let me see here where that is. Overdue notice is
Notice is
sent
sent.
kind of down there. at the
I
bottom.
noticed they were really shrinking.
They're
I
really
wondered if that
shrinking,
was it.
and it is. It's making a huge difference. We have most of our patrons are signing up for the fact that they can now receive a text message or an email 3 days before their materials become due, so they can go in themselves and renew, or call us and renew if they need to. It's also a lot of them are signing up for when they want something on reserve, that instead of us having to call them, that it will text them or email them that their materials are due at the library. So, or in at the library for them. So, we're seeing an improvement, a big improvement on how much time staff is having to use to contact people. And also people are really liking the service because it puts it that they don't have something overdue, and no one likes to have anything overdue. So, we're really enjoying that.
And I take it under lost and destroyed materials, that dropped off, you're through weeding and
Well, we're
going
not
through shelves?
through. We took a
Just
break.
took a break.
Yeah.
That is mind-numbing business to do
The
that.
number will be going up, but we realize every once in a while we have to take a break from it so we can keep our perspective where it needs to be, and that. And we're about finished with with our nonfiction upstairs. We've just now gotten into what is kind of the hard part, which is the history. And you use a different criteria when you're looking at history. It's a lot slower process. It's a lot more in-depth process than just is this material up to date or has it been checked out? Because history doesn't go out of date. And even if you have something on your shelf that you know history-wise maybe doesn't have anything factual in it, it is still a representation of what was written at that time. So you have to keep a variety of those type of things for the people 20, 25 years down the road that are coming in. So
the borrowed interlibrary loan is just about dried up now, right?
It has made, part of it is the time of year. Also the fact that we now belong to where they can download ebooks.
That's what
That
I was
has taken care of a lot of that.
That's what
A
I
lot
mean.
of the things that we now are borrowing interlibrary loan are those type of things that are more, probably don't have as many print numbers on the edition. We're not ordering in interlibrary loan fiction stuff anymore. The stuff we are interlibrary loaning in now is nonfiction type of information that people are wanting.
But they used to charge like $3.
We still charge that, which basically kind of covers postage, but doesn't really cover postage. And the reason we had to start doing that a number of years ago was because when interlibrary loan was very popular, we were spending a good portion of our budget just on a few members of our patrons that liked interlibrary loan. There could be somebody coming in interlibrary loaning 8 to 10 books, within a 6 weeks period, and we were paying all the postage for their books to go back, which isn't fair for our other patrons. So.
Okay.
But, just
No.
you said $3 doesn't even cover that, but it goes library book rate.
It goes
doesn't
it goes library book rate, but that is not near as inexpensive as what it used to be. And it's also important that we have to now with those books start tracking on it, because we within the postal system with the size it's gotten and the way they do it now, more books are lost in the mail. So we really don't want to insure, but there seems to be when we put tracking on it that it's easier for us to track down if it goes into a post office somewhere and gets stuck in a bin somewhere, and not get delivered. We can find that book a lot easier. Otherwise, if it's interlibrary loan, we have to have either the patron, if they turn it in to us, they're not responsible for it. The library is responsible for replacing the book. So on some of these more expensive books, you're talking $40, $50 to replace a book. And so we just can't afford to do that. So it's cheaper for us to go ahead and pay a little more and get that extra to make sure that it gets to that library.
I don't want to waste time, but I went to the post office the other day to send some books to my grandniece for her birthday, which is over this weekend. And they asked me if there's anything in there besides the books. Because if you put anything else, then the price goes up.
Right.
And I had,
So you can't
I had,
stick a note in
I had
there.
a birthday card with all kinds of things in there, so I just lied and said no.
You're going to take.
Why should I pay $15 for something that I could get for
It's only a federal
$6?
offense.
I do not cheat on my taxes. But
Okay, moving on.
Because I thought you'd find it interesting.
Okay.
We all have our weaknesses.
We're ready for city council reports, Steve.
Well, we have, last night, the council was given the preliminary budget for FY16. We have about a week to review that, and then we will have a public budget hearing on June the 15th at our regular city council meeting. As I mentioned, last month we were dealing with a projection of about 6% less in revenues next year because of the slowdown in the energy sector, so we're having to factor that in as we put the budget together. We have completed our stoplight project at Lane and 281, so we've gotten a lot of positive comments about that. Hopefully the monsoon season is over and we can begin going full speed on our street repair program. We've got a pretty ambitious schedule for the summer with that, and other than that, that seems to be our main topics
Yay.
at work.
Does the street schedule include that section of Flynn over there at, what is it, 10th, 9th? It's really, really bad right there at that intersection.
That is one of the things that we decided to do.
And it always potholes out.
Instead of spending the large amount of money that we were looking at spending on 3 blocks of Flynn downtown, we have identified about 10 to 12 intersections in town. I believe that's one of them.
I hope it is.
That
It's
we
not
will-
actually the intersection that's the issue, it's that just to the east of the intersection part.
But we have some intersections that have to be fixed, and they have to be done with concrete and new curbing because they channel so much water. And until we really get those fixed and addressed, the streets, we're really not going to be really effective in keeping those repaired. So we will take that money and be using that to repair some key intersections. We will be publishing a map within the next couple of weeks of every street project that we intend to get done in the next fiscal year, along with every water and sewer project that we intend to complete. So there
That
will
would
be
be very helpful.
so there will be a map that will show what we have planned to do, and obviously if we get all that done, we'll be successful, and if we don't, then I guess we'll be held accountable.
Something will happen, I guarantee it. Somebody's pet project or spot won't happen, and then they'll be upset, but you'll have to go on with life.
Did we incur any damage or this torrential rains and everything to the streets? And
Yeah, I
things?
mean, we've got a huge pothole problem. As you'll see, some of our streets were originally concrete, and then there was an overlay of tar and rock. Well, the water has gotten between those two, and so the overlay of tar and rock has come loose from the concrete. So it clearly made our problems worse, but Alva was a city that was built originally without a very good storm drain system. And so our streets are designed to channel.
Don't have any drainage.
Our streets are designed.
Drainage is the streets.
Yeah, and so that creates a huge
Eighth
problem.
and Ninth are rivers.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, it's the wrong trees.
Because there's a big underground drainage that comes, I guess, from the campus on there by the Town and Country Church, and that just into the street.
Yeah.
Well, that used to be a creek.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I remember
It
as a
still
kid,
is.
But I mean, it was a creek, and you could crawl. You weren't supposed to, but you could go underneath the tunnel in the street
Yeah.
and all of that. And
Everything flows from south to north. Down,
So, I know
eventually
it's
to the-
right.
eventually to the river. But there's no real underground storm drain system. It's all above ground drainage.
And there's a problem, well, every time we had heavy rains, the sand washes north into the boulevard, and especially one by the university there. And they should go around and make sure and scrape that stuff up, because when people are turning, they skid. I was following one, and he skid out of control almost into the face of someone else. So keep those things
Well, and part of
clean.
our projects will include
It's not that thick.
working on those streets that are dirt
Yeah.
up there on the south side of town, and at least putting rock down and eventually asphalt base. Until we do that, the sand will continue to run over top of it.
Because our dirt is. Well, thank you, Steve. Okay, we're ready for those library code ordinance things. I actually sat down one day and read those. That was interesting.
Ordinances.
I learned something, this thing. Actually, I was sitting in the doctor's office in the waiting room, and it took forever, and so I read the whole thing while I was waiting.
Good reading, too.
That-
I
that
pay
tells-
attention.
well, you know,
Yeah.
that tells you a lot about this and about my doctor.
I want to find out what the penalty was for the defining
Yeah.
the ordinances.
So, I learned some things, nothing that was extraordinarily unusual, I didn't think. Especially since a lot of this it divided it between the two different kinds of boards, the system and the county libraries. So,
That's interesting.
city libraries, and that was us.
That's interesting.
I did find that interesting. Lenny, what'd you think?
It's all
Okay,
there.
you need a doctor's appointment so you can sit in the waiting room and read this thing.
He can read it and then bring any questions.
Half
one
of
thing-
it is appendices.
Right.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's not really as big as it looks.
No,
because
no.
And part of it is too, is in the thing with the advisory boards and the way we are set up, what our city does is what we follow, okay? Now, I think if we had some questions, you know, we could go to the city and say, you know, this isn't clear, whatever else, but it does state in here that what the city says, I mean, as far as it's not totally off of what Oklahoma law is, as long as it's Oklahoma law, it does, you know, the city carries the power as far as what they want us to be doing. I do have kind of a question, and it's nothing we need to address right now, but in the city, our city policy, it does have the line in there that it shall set policy for the library, which we have done. It has the interesting wording of supervise and care for grounds, rooms, or buildings constructed. I mean, I would think that would be giving opinion, kind of watching,
Overview.
monitoring, that type of thing, and kind of being reporting back if you see concerns. But that sentence was different than what was in our old policy that had been written years ago. These policies had been reviewed because they hadn't been done. So that may be something in the future that, you know, if we have a question on
Mhm.
what really kind of
A single.
that's delegating
yeah.
to,
Mhm.
would be something that we could maybe look at and address. Also, I have to point out one thing, and I apologize, and I knew this, but I did not get it done this year, and that was the fact when it came time to do the budget that we were asking to ask to turn into the city. I was supposed to bring that to the board as a whole. After the committee members got together and looked at it, that should have come to the board as a whole. And that was my fault. I got the days confused on when Joe John was wanting it in the office. I thought I had 2 weeks longer, which that next week was our board. I got involved in personal things, some health, 2 or 3 of my family members were having health issues. And I read last year's date instead of this year's date. So that is something that we will make sure next year does not happen. Even though I don't think we made any big changes for what would have been done. We usually stay pretty consistent.
Okay, who has a comment? Anybody on that? Do we need to revisit that thing? If you're having insomnia some night, just pull it out tonight. See how that works for you. Especially some of those appendices. It's not really as big as it looks, because half of it is for the system libraries and we're not, and half of the whole packet is appendices. So it's really not as big a clunky thing as you would expect. Okay, moving on to library elections.
According to our code of ordinances, July is when we do our elections for our board here. So I will put that on the agenda. And what it reads in our officers for our city code of ordinances, that after July 1st thereafter, the board of directors shall meet organized by electing 1 director as president, 1 director as secretary, and by electing such other officers as the board may deem necessary. The secretary need not be a member of the board. They shall adopt such rules and regulations for their own guidance and for the governance and operation of the library as may be expedient and not be inconsistent with the ordinances of the city. So we will have our elections next month.
Okay. So be thinking which of you wants to jump right up. And Sandra has said if any of you want to do secretarial duties, just jump right in there. Because right now Sandra is doing them for us, and ably, I might add. All right, we're ready for summer reading programs.
Hey, our actual summer reading program kickoff is next Monday. Our pre-enrollment time has ended, and at this point in time we have 135 students that are signed up. Those are 3 different groups. We have 2 groups for our younger students, age 4 through 7. And there are probably about 85 kids that are enrolled between those 2 groups. And then we have what we call our reading group, which are those that have completed 2nd grade up to about 5th grade. And that group is steadily growing every year, which is we're excited about, because that means that we're transitioning them up into still enjoying reading. We do have quite a few of our kids that are junior high and a few high school kids that are volunteers for us in our program, and some parents. So we're excited about that. And superheroes is our theme this year, and it's also superheroes in your community. So we're going to have our firefighters, our ambulance, our police will be coming and talking to the kids. We'll be talking about how everybody can be a hero, just what a hero is, and how you can be a hero to somebody, and beside the traditional superheroes.
There's a morning session and an afternoon session. Are those different?
There are two morning sessions, one that starts at 9 and one that starts at 10:30, and those are the exact same program. Those are for our young kids. But then our readers program, which is in the afternoon, that are for our readers, is a very different program, because those kids, they themselves read. So even though Marcia may be doing some reading of part of the book and then having them read, the activity levels and everything they do on a much higher level because of the thought process skills and the things that they're able to do, attention spans, just everything from working with young children to working with those.
Well, I saw her yesterday. I talked to her and I said, well, I'll come in anyway if you can use me. If not, I'll just listen to what's going on, you know.
Right.
Which program would be best for me? And I remember I do a lot of mentoring. I've been doing that for over 10 years.
It just depends. If you come into the older program,
Yeah.
you will just be observing, because that is where the kids are doing it on their own. I mean, it's not where they're required any guidance, it's them more working in groups themselves. So that would be an observing group. The group that is the younger group is where when we do hands-on activities, we can actually use some people kind of helping, you know, kids stay on track of doing their.
She told me it's
activity.
10:30 in the morning.
Okay, yeah, the 10:30 one will try to be, that's our bigger group. We always.
If you use me, fine. If not, I'll
Yeah.
just.
Yeah, no, the 10:30 group would be fine, but yeah, that's when sometimes we have volunteers coming in more for that group. Because the older group is, I mean, they're in school, they're sufficient, they know how to work in groups.
So
They're there
10:30 in the
because they
morning.
want to be there, it's not because mom said, you're going to the library for the program, you know, those are kids that, they're there because they want to.
So I'll show up about
10:30.
And it's for 6 weeks.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
every Monday. So we're excited about that.
All right. Now the STEM grant, which we
Okay.
received,
We
yay.
did receive it, and we were excited. It was called, The Kid is a Rocket. It is a LSTA grant. And due to that was the fact that, I kind of understood then why the city has started placing our grant money not in our special library donation fund, which we always did before, but it's actually going into those budgeted city accounts, is because the city has to be tracking how many federal grants they receive across the whole city. And if it receives a certain amount, then there's a special kind of audit that has to be done. So that kind of explains why all of a sudden they were taking our funds that before had gone one place and are putting them someplace else.
But we get them eventually.
No, we get the funds. Oh yeah, it's just a different way of them keeping records and us needing to learn to adapt to it here.
You told us before, what is STEM?
Okay,
stand for?
STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And we received what we had asked for, which was $5,139.46. And we were excited because 75 libraries in the state applied, and 21 of them were funded. Of the funded libraries, 12 of them were grant systems, and 9 of them were municipal libraries. So we felt really, really good that we were in those municipal, because only 9 of them got it. And
Was this
so
a grant
we
that
were
Mandy
excited.
helped write?
This is the grant that Mandy helped write, and
Good.
it had a criteria sheet, and the way they did it was you had to score 12 or above out of 14 points. And so it was the first time we had written a grant that dealt totally with criteria, you know, that they told us you have to cover these areas. And so that was a new situation for us, and Mandy did an excellent job. We kind of all worked on it, but she was the main grant writer.
Congratulate her for us.
Oh, I did, and I told her, I said, hey, this is great. She said, great, I'm good at something that I don't like doing. And I said, well, welcome to the club. I've been writing for about 15 years now, so.
Sandra, what was the dollar amount?
Okay, it was $5,139.46. And they actually sent those funds just directly electronically to the city. So I checked yesterday to make sure that they had received them, and they had. So that is the money that we are going to be spending in the next 2 weeks. We already have we had to have the items picked out that we were going to buy before we ever turn the grant in, and we have to buy those specific items.
Well, that's lucky.
They all deal with STEM activities, and we're excited because one of them is a big movable wall that the kids can do things on, and we can put that in the auditorium or the youth library, or we even move it upstairs here. We have a couple of what they call light boards, which is what the kids interact with, plus a lot of hands-on logic puzzles and type of things. We're going to add 2 of the kits onto our Lego science kits that we did. That'll be the robotics, and so we're excited about that. So just trying to get a good feel of what's going to be good for the community. So then as we build our program, we'll be able to move forward on what type of things we need to apply for. So
Oh, I'm excited about that. That sounds good.
anyway, we we're excited.
Are we going to get any kind of publication on that?
We will, as soon as the city, as soon as the state gives us the specific type of, they'll do a little write-up thing. And then we would really like to be able to get a few of the items in, so we can do a thing and say, come to the library, and we will try to have those things featured and focused. And then part of them will become part of just our permanent part of our youth library downstairs. Some of them will be things we move in and out. Some of them will be things that will be there permanently. And some of the things will be things that parents can come in with their children and check out to use in the library, not to take home with them. But if a parent wants to come in and say, I would like to sit down for 30 minutes with my child and run through this activity, we will do that. We will not have it with our young children that they can do them on their own just because we'll lose too many pieces. But the ones for the middle school students will have it that the kids themselves, like we do with our Legos, that the kids can come to the desk and they say, we want a set of Legos to take out and build with. And that's what we do with our Legos right now, so that's what we'll do with those.
You end up on the floor to be stepped on.
Right, yeah.
Ouch. Okay, good job. All right, director's report?
Okay, a few things that came about since I did this. We do have our iPads that are going to be set up downstairs. They are ready to go. We just need to get the apps loaded on those. And I was in Enid the other day, so I went to the Enid library and was able to talk to their technical people, and I got a list of the apps that they have on theirs that they're really excited about. And Enid, of course, is much bigger than us. They run about 16 iPods in our youth department, and they are actually buying a second set because the battery life on the iPads are 8 hours, and they're running out of power. So they're going to have a set that they can switch out. So we'll kind of watch that. So we're excited about that. I've also made contact with a teacher that presented a program at OLA that uses them in her library at her school, and she's going to send me the list of the educational ones that she does. And so we're excited getting that list. We thought we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If we have people that already have programs that are working well for the kids, we don't need to go out and research that on our own.
That's true.
So, also, we have now added a new feature. We had some money left in our state aid funding, and that all has to be expended before July 1st. And we have purchased a new electronic service called Tumble Books. It's for ages pre-K, or even earlier than pre-K, up to 5th grade, and it is accessible on a computer, through iPhone, wherever. And what it actually does is the books, it's the actual book that is on the that you access. And all the pages, all the graphics, all the words, it looks just like it's the book you have in front of you. And you turn the pages and it reads to you. And so, and it will highlight them, you can turn on a feature that will highlight words. Like when kids get older to do word recognition, you can turn off the feature of the words and the kids themselves can be reading the book. So it's a progression of teaching kids and encouraging books. And so we're kicking that off this year, and we're going to see what kind of response we get on that. But the link will be on our library homepage, which will make people come to our homepage to access it. But they could access it at their home, they could access it when they're traveling, they can access it any place that they have internet, and there is not a limited amount of users. We could have 100 and 150 kids at a time on there reading the same book.
So everybody could be reading Good Night Moon at 8 o'clock in the evening, wherever they are.
Right. Doesn't make any difference.
How
There's
many
no
books
limit.
are available on that?
Right now, there are 660 books
That ought to cover it.
available.
Is this an ongoing fee, or is it just a
It's
one?
an ongoing fee. The subscription fee for it is like $795 a year. And basically, we're kind of fortunate it was made for schools, and they decided to open it up for libraries. It is actually a company out of Canada. And I've checked with about 5 other libraries here in Oklahoma that are using the service, and they love it. They said sometimes they will just have it open on one of their computers down in their youth library and the kids just come and sit at that computer and just pick book after book after book to have it read to them. So, for the cost of most electronic databases, we were very pleased with that. And if it goes over well, they have one for another $500 that will move it up into the middle school age range. So we're excited about that. And then the only other announcement that two other announcements. Number one, Wendy is back, and that doesn't impact you guys, but she's been gone for a month to Australia. And there's nothing like being gone for a month to make people really appreciate you. We've always appreciated her, but we have an added appreciation for what she does, because she takes care of a lot of the daily things here in the library for us. So just keeping things straightened and checking people out and all of our magazines and everything like that. So we should have had a party today. And also one other thing that I'm working on is contracts that we use with our independent, like with our IT people. We have a contract, and we try to renew and look at that contract every couple of years. We do that as far as maintenance on our equipment, as far as our copiers. So we will go in and revisit all of that. And there's not been a contract written with our custodial staff, and I am going to be doing that. So I had been talking with Joe Don for that for a couple of years, so I'm going to approach that with him again, and we need to get a contract written for that. So
they just rent on an agreement kind of basis, right?
It was just an agreement type of basis, which is not working well for us. And the agreement they went under, as far as services that were supposed to be provided, those have kind of undergone changes or morphed and have not morphed in a direction that is necessarily maybe the best direction for the library at this point in time. And so I think we need to have that under a contract that is very specific. This is the specific things that need to be done for the custodial maintenance of the library.
Okay, thank you. All right, board member and visitor comments. Got any comments over there, Missy? No? How about the rest of us? All right. Thank again, Bryant, your fiance, for the goodies. That was good stuff.
Yeah, oh, that was excellent. Really
Too
good.
bad we have a short group here today. Sometimes we leave some of that for the staff also.
Yeah, well, I'll leave it here and pick it up later. Do you think your staff members want it, Sandra?
It really is a part of
Cutter,
it when
right.
you coming back.
Yeah.
Might want to re-plug it in.
I'll just pull some out if that's okay
Yeah,
for
that's
them.
fine. That's fine.
So,
Great.
anyway, thank you.
Okay. Well, if nobody has any comments, we will stand adjourned.
Sorry.